You are listening to the Lead Big Red podcast from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Educational Administration Department with your hosts, Dr. Tawana Holman and Dr. Scott Sturgeon. Welcome to the Lead Big Red podcast. I am Scott Sturgeon, Associate Professor of Practice at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln in the Educational Administration Department, and my co-host is
Dr. Tawana Holman. I'm also a professor here at UNL in the Educational Administration Department. And today with us, we have Dr. Tawana Grover. We are so excited to have you join our podcast today. Thank you for being here. And could you just go ahead and start off and sharing a little bit about yourself, things that you would like for our podcast nation to hear about you?
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for having me here on this podcast. I am Dr. Tawana Grover. I'm currently the superintendent of Grand Island Public Schools here in the state of Nebraska. That's about 80 miles west of Lincoln, where all the Go Big Red action happens. We're about 80 miles west of that. Prior to coming to the state of Nebraska, I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for about 13 years. I was born and raised in Alabama, actually. And so I've been in education for almost 25 years now. And so I started at a teacher, being a teacher, a fifth grade teacher. I said those fifth graders, they're the one that made me go into administration. So any fifth grade teachers out there that can relate. And since then, I've had the opportunity to work at a number of different levels and opportunities. So really a traditional path from the classroom teacher all the way to the superintendency. So I'm just excited to have this conversation.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
And I'm a former fifth grade teacher, so I can appreciate how they can lead you to administration. Fifth grade was the best, though.
I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty passionate about fourth grade, so that could be up for discussion.
Awesome. So, Dr. Grover, a lot of people are talking and writing about the changes that can, may, or should come coming out of the pandemic. And I just want to know what you think about what did the crisis teach you and teach the school leaders that work in your school district about what are the things that people need when they're dealing with whether it's a national crisis, a worldwide crisis like this, or even the crises that come across a principal's desk or a superintendent's desk.
Wow, that's a loaded question there. I'll try to see can I tackle it just a little bit. So, I mean, first of all, this has been unprecedented. We've heard that word before. I don't think any of us realized what we were really up against. And so I think, you may have thought that you've seen it all, done it all in the area of education, but certainly we were reminded that we are learners, number one. And so we really had to kind of understand the landscape of what we were dealing with. And for me, I believe what has been beneficial and what people need throughout, like dealing with the crisis, definitely is going to be leadership. I really had to find, my voice to be the calm in the middle of the storm and trying to find ways to give people hope no matter what. So just a lot of hope as well. And it's where you start in the crisis, right? So people are so nervous, they need to be reassured. And as a leader, I had to be out there, like to be that face and that voice to reassure our families that we're going to take care of your kids, to reassure my staff, I'm going to take care of the folks that are going to take care of my kids. Like first and foremost, those basic needs. I mean, people are concerned about food. If you are a student or if you're a staff, what does this mean for my income level? How am I I'm worried about my kids too. All of that. So I think the first and foremost was just having empathy toward the situation, but knowing that I needed to lead in a way that allowed people to trust me. I think I remember asking people to just trust me through this process. Trust us. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to communicate. I don't know all the answers. But I promise you, I'm going to stay in tune with you. I remember when the crisis first, struck, one of the things we did, we started a story time live where we would just read a book to kids at night, just because they were at home, they're used to seeing their teachers and so forth. And I remember saying, thank you for allowing me to come into your homes. And so while we were reading those stories, we'd be giving little tidbits, safety tidbits, updates but the whole idea was just to stay connected. And as we move forward, through that process, when people start trusting you, is now what, right? What's the plan? What are we going to do about this at this point? And so just really galvanizing people to really understand what everyone, in all different facets of the organization, what they need and how this plan is going to reflect and to continue to sustain us during these tough times.
That's great. Thank you so much.
So some of the information that you just provided in your answer kind of leads right into my question. In your opinion, just from your experience, what is one thing that separates, or what are some things that separates great leaders from good or average leaders?
Well, what I've been saying with this pandemic, I'm just going to say it put me to the test as a leader who's been leading, from a school level, from a district office level. Of those 20 years that I talked about, 21 of them has been in some form of leadership from assistant principal on up. And so I really say that coming out of this crisis, the survivors will be those people who are strategic and who are innovative. I believe that this pandemic, it was an invitation for innovation. And so it was not a time for us to wallow. Certainly we had to understand the landscape and get out there and advocate for our kids and our communities in every way that's possible. But what really was the game changer is how can I be strategic with everything that we're dealing with and have a strong plan of action and trying to take care of everyone, but not isolating everyone, because this has been a very controversial time and I still need to galvanize people. So that's where that intentionality and that strategic thinking comes into play. And also just to be able to service people in so many different needs and to just be willing to do things differently. You have to be innovative. And I think that holds true. Industry, they learn that, right? The service industry, maybe if they never delivered before, they started delivering if they want to keep their restaurants open, right? So the same thing, we want to deliver for our kids. We were going to have to think about innovative ways to be able to do that.
Great, thank you, thank you.
So I'm going to go to your newest leaders, or the ones that might be your newest leaders next year, and that is, what are some of those early days failures that you wish new principals would know how to anticipate? So what are those things that trip up the newest educational leaders at that building level?
Wow, this is going to sound so simple and so elementary. I guess I was an elementary teacher. You don't know it all and you can't do it all by yourself. I mean, I think that is just some really clear advice. And first of all, especially if you're going into a new space you've never been into, I think the opportunity to really get to know people and to understand the landscape, because I believe it's true. It was true for me. I came here to Nebraska in this role. I'd never been here before. And I'm coming with this Southern accent all the way from the South, and trying to get people in many ways that have never experienced a leader with some of the background characteristics that I bring, and that I need them to trust me. But part of that is being able to appreciate those folks that are around me. And your team is everything. And so many different people, they have so much knowledge and strength to bring to the table. Don't ever forget, you are the leader, and the buck does stop with the leader. You're going to be responsible. We have to create that vision. But that idea of vulnerability and being open and approachable, I think it allows you to go further faster.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So you've spoken a lot about trust and how important it is for your staff and your families and your community to trust you, especially since you are from a completely different state. And thinking about that, what has been your most challenging decision as a leader of Grand Island Public Schools thus far? And with that challenging decision, outside of trust, what else did you do to try to get everybody on board with whatever that decision may have been?
maybe without going into any like specific initiatives, because
Right.
there have been a
And
lot
please
of
don't. Yes.
yeah, there have been
I
a lot of
apologize.
different
Yes.
initiatives that have happened, and it's just because time won't allow, really. But I think the biggest thing is change. As a new leader, in whether it's your board of education or if you're a principal, it's your superintendent, they want new initiatives to come about. That can be very tough, within your communities and outside of the trust factor, because oftentimes when you're trying to change something, they don't trust you. They didn't trust maybe the last time when somebody tried to come in with something new. They're still holding on to what failed, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so that can be extremely difficult. And I really had to learn this. But this idea of transparency and communication, and not just going out making a decision without having some form of input or collaboration with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I've learned too, and this is so scary, it's okay to somewhat share ideas that are not fully formed yet. Like, now you need to have all of your research and your background and understand, but be willing to bring the parents in and say, hey, I'm thinking about this idea, or I really want to move this idea forward. I think it's best. What do you see as barriers? What would I need to do as a leader in order to make this idea happen for our kids? And the parent, they will tell you. And I'm so glad that, I was able to do that with a lot of our change initiatives, because I will say some of the ideas that we started with were not the ones that we ended up with. And the ones we ended up with after getting stakeholder feedback were much better. So don't be afraid to engage your stakeholders. They're the end users. Like, it's about the kids, it's about our families, and even our the student voice. I ask my students so much right now. I have a superintendent student advisory council. I go to them, help me understand, your needs. If I try this approach, what does this mean for you? And it just makes the plan that much stronger, and it allows the other people, you'll realize that you're not necessarily out here on an island trying to drive this change by yourself. You really do have other people who understand it, and they can be part of bringing the rest of the community along with the changes you desire as a leader.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so that brings up that whole idea of coming in from the outside. You started from scratch in trust with a lot of people, right? So when you think about coming from out of state into a totally new environment, what is it about the perspective of being an outsider? What has that done for you in Grand Island in providing you maybe a supporter or a success because you had a perspective that wasn't born of being a lifelong Grand Island Public Schools person?
Well, I think first of all, understand that it goes both ways, right? So when I say that, having a deep appreciation for the community that you're entering. I was willing to come to Grand Island because of what I read about it, what I understood to be true. They appeared to and we are now, but they appear to be a very progressive district. I kind of looked at my skill sets. I think you have to ask yourself, can I add value? Is this an area that I can appreciate, and can I also bring, something to the table? And so I think I was able to appreciate the leadership that was here, the board, the principal, central office staff. It's a lot of great talent that already existed. At the same time, being an outsider, I think I could see my lens was just a little bit different, and sometimes this can cost you a little for a few maybe political pennies. But you're not attached. You're not attached to any specific person, or it's because of who started the initiative. So you're able to do more of a fair assessment and inventory by using a different lens. But you have to be careful of how you handle it and how you manage it, because trust me, most people are thinking at whatever point we did something, we felt like we were doing the right thing. Maybe it's just time for something, new or different, or a way to evolve it or improve it. And that's where that strong leadership comes in, is how do you make sure you continue to value the historical nature, but yet still challenge at a high level And I think you can do that when you strike that right balance of high expectations, but high levels of support and admiration for the opportunity that we get to serve. No one owes us anything. We get the opportunity to be a part of, implementing programs or leading and ultimately changing lives of the students that are in front of us each and every day.
Thank you.
Well said. So, in thinking in terms of leadership, there are very many general thoughts, ideas, definitions out there as it relates to education. Share with us what your definition is of leadership and some things you live by as a leader in education.
I guess maybe if I had to sum it up, my idea of leadership is about lifting others. It's just that simple to me. One of my favorite quotes is by John Quincy Adams. I believe he says something like, if you inspire others to dream more, learn more, become more, then you are a leader. I feel good about my leadership. I know at the end of the day, I can feel a level of, success when I see other people succeeding. I don't care who it is. If it's in, of course, my kids, my district, it could be a fellow superintendent, another principal, somebody that's up and coming as a leader, because we have a responsibility to make sure that we continue to grow and hone and have sustainability of leadership. And, I would say, I always tell this story, just a quick little story. I remember my mom called me a couple of summers ago. They were getting ready to hire a principal back home. And so I'm here in Nebraska, she's in Alabama. And, I'm like, I'm in the middle of something, Mom, whatever. I call her back. And so she's like, well, I want to ask you a few questions. And, they're trying to hire a principal. I said, Mom, why are you even worried about that? You don't even have any kids at the school anymore. Neither do you have any grandkids at the school anymore. Why are you so involved? And she said, well, Tawana, we still want the students to do well. And so that's how I feel, that no matter if I'm in Alabama, Texas, Nebraska, wherever, I just want the students to do well, because I know the value of a strong educational leader from my own personal journey and story, and the difference it makes in whether a child succeeds or not succeed. So therefore, my definition of leader is just to be able to lift others.
And obviously your mom sees that in you, because she's trying to get you to come back home to be the leader there. But we're thankful that she did not talk you into it.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for teachers who are thinking about working towards formal leadership roles? We know teachers play many informal leadership roles in schools, and we absolutely need that. But what advice do you have for those folks that are looking around and going, you know what, I think I want to do that?
We need you. Number one, we need you. And of course, I'm a little partial towards it being, a classroom teacher myself. I would say, don't be afraid, because sometimes we think we have our little kids and we have our classroom and we kind of know what we're doing, but you have the opportunity to influence or impact students on such a larger scale. Oftentimes, some of our best teachers, they're already coaching other teachers. Like, they're probably already the go-to teacher that people come to for advice and ideas. And that's what we want in our school leaders, is for you to be an instructional leader, to be a coach, and to already know how to engage students where that they can succeed at high levels. The advice would be to start taking on some, formal leadership roles. If you're not sure about the principalship, you can always find other teacher leader opportunities that exist within your organization. But yeah, and also the other part is a lot of districts, they're now doing a lot of aspiring principal type programs, and that is just a great place for you to build a cohort, a network of folks, and to understand. I am excited here. We're actually starting an internship where you get an opportunity to kind of practice, right, the role of the principals, but really more of prep for it. But I think sometimes in that tap on the shoulder, I can remember that I actually started out saying I was going to be a school counselor, but it was actually my principal that came to me and said, you know what, you need to go into administration. And it's probably the best, advice that I actually took. And so when people see that in you, don't just take it as a compliment, take it as a call to action where you can lead at a higher level.
That's a great way to look
I
at
like
it.
that.
Call to action.
I like that. Call to action. Yep.
Yep.
Dr. Grover, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned from someone, whether it be a mentor, friend, family member, colleague, etc., and how do you apply it to your responsibilities as the leader of your school district?
Wow. Well, maybe it's a little bit of a combination of advice from a couple of different people. I remember one of my mentors said, you'll just keep calling everybody till you get the answer that you want. But having different perspectives sometimes is helpful. So one of the things I learned as a leader is don't be afraid to lead from the top. You have an accountability to be around the table, and you have to get in the trenches. So when I say that, I mean, as a leader, there's no one that's going to replace you from being that, right? Like you have to be front and center, and if you're going to be a leader, you can't, that's your responsibility to be the visionary, to hold people accountable, to set expectations, to provide the support. You have to be willing to do that. You also have to be willing to be around the table to help advocate. Okay, if we're not around the table, we will be on the menu, and our students, they are depending on us to be able to advocate at whatever level. Sometimes if you're the principal, you might have to come and advocate to the superintendent what you need for you and your students. You know, if I'm a superintendent, I may have to advocate at the legislature about what my students need. And at the end of the day, I have to be willing to roll up my sleeves. I can never be so far removed that I don't understand what's happening by being in my buildings and going and talking to teachers and asking them, how's this curriculum working out for you that we just adopted? Or the students, how's this schedule working for you, or your needs or whatever. But being willing to go into the trenches is important. So you just have to be that situational leader that is always looking for the opportunity to ensure that you're making the difference that you think you're making.
What you said just kind of reminds me of my building principal that I used to work for. And she always said, don't ever expect your teachers or anybody else in your building to do anything that you would not do yourself or expect of yourself. And so I always remember that. And so what you're saying, it kind of reminds me of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. And I steal this from a podcaster, Tim Ferriss, and he asks every guest that he has on, what book do you gift or recommend the most to others?
Oh, wow. It has definitely changed over the years because I'm always gifting and trying to share books and so forth. So maybe let me see. I love Good to Great. Like that's a classic. So everybody has that. If you don't have it, we're gonna probably question your credentials. But then the next book, and I have to get the author for this book, but the title of the book is called Culture Code. I actually have this book. I have it. I'm looking at my phone right now. I have it on Kindle, Audible.
Right.
As well as the hard copies. And I also did it as a book study. And so now when leaders ask me about this book, I am recommending, I think it only came out a couple of years ago. It's called Culture Code, but it just really breaks down how you build culture for success. They give quite a few examples from anywhere from like a Harvard example, from the San Antonio Spurs coach and how they became a winning team, even a school district that they refer to and how they were able to turn around schools. And so I just recommend that book now as one that I think it just transcends, whatever part of the organization you're in.
That's not one I have, so it's going on the reading list.
And it's by Daniel Cole. Daniel Cole, The Culture Code.
All right. That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
it's telling me on my phone Scott, that I finished it. I listen to it in the car all the time. But what it does, it just reminds me of, how we set the tone. Like every action, how we handle every challenge, every opportunity we have to coach. They're always in front of us, and really it's our everyday behaviors that create culture within your organization.
And I've been paying attention a lot to Jim Collins lately, so it's great that you brought that up, and his whole concept of the flywheel, which I think there's some good synergy between what you're saying in Culture Code and the concept of the flywheel, that the idea, you got to get that thing moving, and once it's moving, it will do the work for you. It will build those cultures and continue to provide the kind of environment that you're hoping to have exist. So I love those two choices. That's fantastic.
Yes. And Scott, you might be able to kind of utilize that in your school culture course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So let me know what you think about it, Scott, whenever, if you try it out.
I will absolutely try it out.
Okay. This could be a tough question. I'm not sure, because I know that you're awfully successful. I know that you have accomplished a tremendous amount. So,
oh gosh.
What has been your greatest accomplishment as a leader?
It is a tough question. How do you even answer that, Dr. Holman?
I don't
put the humility aside and just brag on yourself.
Yes. No, she has to take a drink on that one, huh?
I do. In thinking about my greatest accomplishment, I guess it's a lot to think about. I don't know, maybe just even starting from being, a first generation college student. But if I think about it from a career standpoint, when I applied for the position in Grand Island Public Schools, of course, I had the opportunity to talk to the consultant, and, I was just like, this is such a great district. I feel like it's a fit for me. I didn't really think about the location or anything. It was just, I always feel like we're living our life on purpose. And I had no idea that when the Board of Education named me as their superintendent, that they would be naming the first African-American superintendent in the state of Nebraska. I'm proud to say that, now we do have another superintendent that is also African-American, female at that, here in our state. And so, after learning that, I think my ultimate, measure was that although I was the first, I don't want to be the last. I think a lot of accountability, comes along with that. And we've done some extraordinary work. I have a very strong Board of Education, no matter how, it's changed, a strong community. And I think we are a proof point for the world here in Nebraska to know that you don't have to be a leader of color to promote equity or to have, accountability for all learners. You just need to be, professionals or adults who take personal accountability for understanding the problems and delivering on solutions. And so I'm just thrilled that I have that opportunity.
And if you don't know, your school board loves you. They love you. They really do. They really, really do. So I'm glad that you actually spoke about this, because that is a huge accomplishment. And I know I was super excited. I heard about you in my faculty meeting, actually, here at UNL. How long have you been there? About 4 years now? I'm in
my 5th year. So
you're 5th year now. Okay. So I was a brand new faculty member here, and Dr. Kent Mann said that he's a helm of GI. And so he's like, they hired an African-American female. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, so we got to make sure we take care of her. We do everything we need to do to keep her here. And so.
And they have. My community has been great. We've learned a lot together. We continue to grow. I believe I'm a stronger leader having been here in my community and in our state.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
So yeah, that's great.
All right, so that is all the questions that we have. And we're going to move on over to red round. Scott, you want a time for me? I don't have my phone with me.
Sure.
It's only about 1 minute.
1
Oh
minute.
my
worth of red round.
gosh.
1 minute to.
It should be like a red balloon drop, something fun.
We'll have to add that in special effects later.
Okay.
Dr. Grover, can I ask you a personal question? Are you in a sorority by chance?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All righty. Are you ready?
I am ready for this red round. Yep.
Okay. Let me get myself prepared here. All right. Longhorns or Huskers?
Oh, you better stop it. Go Big Red.
You got the right color on for that answer.
Cats or dogs?
Neither.
I can go with that. I'm a neither as well. Sleeping in or naps?
Sleeping in.
Heels or flats?
Oh, come on.
I mean, I know the answer to this question, but maybe there's some that I have absolutely no idea. Eat in or dine out?
Oh man, that has so changed for me. Oh, I don't know. I still love a nice dinner out.
Okay. One thing you wish that you can bring to GI from your home state, and that could be Alabama or Texas, whichever one you consider to be your home state right at this point.
Yeah, that's easy. My family.
Oh,
Nice.
what a great answer.
Not at all.
Yeah,
That is it.
And we did that.
Awesome.
We did that in about 1 minute and 6 seconds. So it was great.
See?
Yeah.
And only because we had to have some commentary about your heels.
Very good. I just didn't know what you were up to, Dr. Holman, but that was great.
Well, we really appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, well, thank you all so much for having me and just having this platform. I think I've learned so much from listening to other leaders. I just love the opportunity to hear from others. So thank you for providing this opportunity.
Oh, we thank you immensely.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.